Imagine if every person you see today, every city on every continent, scientists have just discovered a massive biological secret hidden within our own genetic code that points to a moment 900,000 years ago when the human race didn't just struggle, almost vanished completely. For over 100,000 years, our ancestors were reduced to a group of barely 1,200 breeding individuals. We were one unlucky afternoon, one bad storm, or one localized event away from total non-existence. This isn't just a theory. A groundbreaking new method of genomic analysis has revealed a massive bottleneck in the middle of the Pleistocene epoch that nearly halted the story of humanity forever. Today we are diving deep into the ancient DNA evidence to find out what happened during this era of silence, what environmental catastrophe pushed us to the brink, and how those 1,200 survivors managed to change the course of history into the world we know today. To understand how close we came to the end, we first have to look at the scale of the collapse. 900,000 years ago, the Earth was going through a period of extreme climate instability. But scientists couldn't quite figure out how this affected the different species of early humans living at the time. By using a new technique called FIT-COL, which stands for Fast Infinitesimal Time Coalescent, researchers were able to look at the genetic diversity of modern humans and project it backward like a movie in reverse. What they found was a terrifying drop in population. Around 930,000 years ago, the global population of our ancestors plummeted by nearly 99%. For comparison, imagine if the current population of New York City was suddenly reduced to the size of a single high school gym class. That is the level of pressure our species was under. This bottleneck lasted for an incredible 117,000 years. Think about that for a second. For over 1,000 generations, the entire hope of the future human race rested on a group smaller than the attendance of a local town hall meeting. During this time, the genetic diversity of our ancestors was nearly wiped out, leaving a mark on our DNA that we still carry to this day. It is the reason why humans are genetically much more similar to each other than other primates like chimpanzees or gorillas. But what caused this near extinction? The evidence points to a combination of factors that created a perfect storm of environmental pressure. At this point in the Pleistocene, the Earth began to experience more extreme glaciations. Massive ice sheets were expanding, causing sea levels to drop and temperatures to fall. But the biggest problem wasn't just the cold, it was the lack of water. As the ice grew, the world became much drier. Vast regions that were once lush forests or fertile savannas turned into arid zones where food and water were scarce. For a species that relied on gathering and hunting, this was a disaster. The game they followed migrated or disappeared, and the plants they gathered failed to bloom. The terrifying part of this discovery is that it explains a missing link in human archaeology. For years, historians had noticed a curious gap in the fossil record. We have fossils from before this time and plenty from after. But for a period of about 100,000 years in Eurasia and Africa. Now, thanks to DNA analysis, we know why. There were so few of them left that the chances of a single individual being preserved as a fossil were almost zero. We were a ghost species, wandering a harsh, changing landscape, trying to find a way to stay alive. How did those 1,200 individuals survive for over 100,000 years? The answer lies in their ingenuity and their ability to adapt to extreme conditions. This was likely the time when our ancestors truly mastered the use of fire to keep warm and to process new types of food. This period of extreme pressure was a forge. It forced the remaining humans to become smarter. The FIT-COL analysis also reveals that this bottleneck ended around 800,000 years ago. Something changed that allowed the population to finally begin its recovery. The climate began to stabilize slightly, or perhaps our ancestors found a new, more abundant source of food. As the population expanded, a new species emerged from this genetic crucible, Homo heidelbergensis. Many scientists believe that this new species was the common ancestor to us, the Neanderthals and the Denisovans. The bottleneck didn't just almost end us, it redefined us. When we look at our DNA today, we can see the scars of this event. Our low genetic diversity is a constant reminder of how close we were to the edge. If you compare the DNA of any two humans on Earth, they are remarkably similar. This is because we all share those same 1,200 ancestors. This shared heritage is a powerful testament to our unity as a species. No matter our background, we all share the story of that small group that survived the coldest, driest centuries the Earth could throw at them. The The discovery has also sparked a debate about where this group of survivors was located. Some researchers suggest they were hived off in a specific refuge area in Africa. Others point to potential sites in Asia. Regardless of the location, these survivors were the ultimate pioneers. They were living on the absolute limit of what was possible for a primate at the time. The implications for our understanding of evolution are massive. Steady climb, but this DNA evidence suggests it's more like a series of crises, followed by rapid change. This period of genomic instability likely accelerated the development of our large brains. Under the intense pressure of the bottleneck, any small advantage, a slightly better tool, a more efficient way to communicate, would have been the difference between life and non-existence. Scientists are also looking at how this event affected the physical characteristics of our ancestors. During the bottleneck, the group was so small that certain genetic traits could become fixed very quickly. This is a process called genetic drift. It's possible that some of our most distinctive human features, from the shape of our skull to our upright posture, were solidified during this era because the small population acted as a genetic funnel. We are, quite literally, the children of the crisis. Comprised of scientists from China, Italy, and the United States, spent years refining the FitCol algorithm to ensure the results were accurate. They analyzed the genomes of over 3,000 individuals from around the world. The consistency of the results was startling. No matter which population they looked at, the evidence of the bottleneck was there. It is a universal human truth hidden in our cells. It's a story that has been waiting 900,000 years to be told. But as the population began to recover 800,000 years ago, they faced a new world. The Earth was still going through glacial cycles. From that small group, our ancestors eventually pushed out across the globe, reaching every corner of the planet. The bottleneck was a temporary narrowing of the path, but it led to a wide-open future. The true origin of our resilience can be traced back to this moment. When we face global challenges today, we can look back at this discovery and realize that we come from a lineage that has already faced the impossible and won. We are the descendants of the 1,200 people who did not give up. That spirit of endurance is baked into our biology. It's a reminder that even when things look incredibly difficult, our species has a history of finding a way through. What's even more fascinating is how the environment changed after the bottleneck. There is evidence of a Pleistocene climate transition that occurred around the same time humans began to recover. The cycles of the ice ages became longer and more intense, but the survivors had already learned how to handle the cold. This period taught them that flexibility was the key to survival. Archaeologists are now using this DNA data to target their searches for land-based evidence. If we know that the population was at its lowest 900,000 years ago, we can focus on areas that would have been the most habitable during that time, places with stable water and protection from the elements. This synergy between genetics and archaeology is opening up a new era of discovery. We are no longer just looking for random fossils. We are hunting for the specific campsites of the survivors who saved humanity. The FitCol method itself represents a massive leap forward in scientific discovery. It allows us to see things that are invisible in the fossil record. It's like having a time machine that reads the history of life through the lens of statistics and biology. This technology will likely be used to study other species as well, revealing the collapsed chapters in the stories of the animals and plants that share our planet. But for now, its greatest contribution is showing us our own narrow escape. The emotional weight of this discovery is something we should all sit with for a moment. Every time you talk to a friend, every time you see a child play, every time you watch a movie or read a book, you are seeing the legacy of those 1,200 people. They didn't know they were saving the future of the world. They only knew they had to keep the fire going one more night. They only knew they had to find food for their children one more day. Their simple daily struggle is the foundation of every human achievement. As we look at the modern world, it's easy to feel like we are separate from nature, but this DNA evidence proves that we are deeply shaped by it. The Earth's climate dictated the size of our population and the direction of our evolution. We are part of a larger, older system, and our history is intimately tied to the history of the planet. The bottleneck was a moment where the planet almost said no to humanity, but a small group fought back and earned our place here. The discovery also highlights how fragile our existence really is. We are a successful species today, but we carry the memory of our vulnerability. This should inspire a sense of humility and a commitment to protecting the world that supports us. Surely we can find ways to protect our environment with the incredible technology and knowledge we have today. DNA is more than just a blueprint for our bodies. It is a library. It stores the memories of every struggle, every adaptation, and every triumph our ancestors ever experienced. By learning to read this library, we are finally understanding the true scale of the human saga, a chapter that explains why we are here and why we are the way we are. The team of researchers is continuing to refine their data, looking for even more detail in the thousands of generations that followed the bottleneck. They want to know exactly how the population grew and how the different branches of humanity, like the Neanderthals, began to split off. Each new piece of information adds more color to this ancient portrait. We are rediscovering our family tree, and it turns out it was almost a very short tree indeed. This discovery also explains why there is so little genetic evidence of other human-like species from that specific era in our own genome. The bottleneck acted as a filter, purifying the lineage that would eventually become us. It made us a distinct, cohesive group, ready to take on the world once the climate improved. Think of the landscapes those 1,200 people saw. Massive rivers that no longer exist, forests full of animals that have been gone for nearly 1,000,000 years, and night skies clearer than anything we can imagine. They were the lonely kings and queens of a vast, empty earth. Their isolation must have been profound, but it also must have fostered a deep sense of group identity. They were all they had. The Fitcol analysis showed that the recovery of the population coincided with the appearance of the first evidence of organized housing and more complex toolkits in parts of Africa and Europe. As their numbers grew, their culture expanded. They began to leave more of a mark on the world. This synergy between population size and cultural complexity is a key theme in human history. We need each other not just for protection, but to spark the ideas that move us forward. When we talk about ancient DNA, we usually think of samples taken from bones, but this study shows that the most ancient DNA is already inside us. We are the living fossils. Our genetic markers are a clearer record than any stone tablet. This shift in perspective is revolutionary. We don't always need to find a skeleton in a cave to understand the past. We can look at the person standing next to us. The bottleneck of 900,000 years ago also puts our current era into perspective. We worry about many things, but we are a population of 8 billion people. We have a level of security and abundance that those 1,200 ancestors could never have dreamed of. We are the ultimate success story, but that success was built on a foundation of extreme hardship. We should never forget the price that was paid for our existence. The resilience of life is the true theme of this story. Even when the world turned against our ancestors, even when the food disappeared and the cold became unbearable, something in them kept going. That something is what characterizes humanity. It is a stubborn, creative, and hopeful energy that survives even the most desperate circumstances. The bottleneck didn't break us. It made us. Who knows what other crises we have survived? We might find even earlier bottlenecks, or moments where our ancestors met other groups in unexpected places. The story of humanity is far longer and more dramatic than any of us previously imagined. We are just beginning to understand the incredible journey we have been on. The scientists who made this discovery are now world-renowned for their work, but they remind us that the real heroes are the people who lived it. The anonymous men and women who kept their small bands together during the long Pleistocene nights. They are the ones who deserve our respect. By uncovering their story, we are finally giving them the credit they never knew they would receive. They are the foundation of our world. This DNA evidence settles one of the biggest mysteries of historical biology, but it opens so many more. How did they find each other in such a vast world? How did they manage to avoid the dangers of inbreeding in such a small group? These questions will fuel the next generation of researchers. Each answer will bring us closer to the survivors who refused to let the human story end. As we close this chapter on the near extinction of humanity, let's carry this knowledge with us. Let's remember that we are a resilient species. Let's remember that we all come from the same small group of survivors. And let's remember that no matter how difficult the challenges of the future may seem, we have the DNA of explorers, survivors, and winners of the ultimate game of life. We have already walked through the fire, and we came out stronger on the other side. The Earth is a place of massive changes, and we are its most adaptable children. The 900,000-year-old bottleneck is a reminder that we belong here because we earned it. We are the 1,200 who stood against the ice and the dust and chose to live. Every breath we take today is a victory song for those who came before us. Their story is our story, and it is the most incredible adventure ever told. The history of humanity isn't just a record of dates and kings. It is a story of a narrow escape that paved the way for everything we love. As we look up at the stars tonight, or out across a landscape, remember that 900,000 years ago, there were only 1,200 of us. The world was huge and silent, and our future was a flickering flame. That flame didn't go out. It grew into a fire that has illuminated the entire planet. We are here, we are curious, and we are just beginning to understand how truly amazing our journey has been. The ancient DNA has spoken, and it has revealed that our true origin is one of unmatched endurance. The discovery of the Pleistocene bottleneck hasn't just clarified a point in time, it has redefined our understanding of what it means to be human. We are a species born of struggle, refined by pressure, and united by a common ancestry that almost vanished. This deep connection to our past gives us a new perspective on our future. If we could survive that, we can survive anything. The key to our future is understanding the strength we have inherited from those 1,200 brave souls who refused to let the world go silent. The story of humanity is an epic of survival, and we are the living proof of its success.